we've given you a very short overview, and Tim has said some very interesting words about BDFI and the need for socio-technical innovation. This is not a trivial task. This is a pretty big ambition that we have set for ourselves. It's big, it's bold, it's not going to be done by next week. This is a long-term, ambitious programme of research and activity that we have set for ourselves. And explicitly, our starting point, as you've heard me say, is that the kind of silos or the kinds of boxes that we're used to thinking in, and I was just talking with Martin from Airbus about this in the queue, in fact, the kinds of silos that we're used to thinking in are not up to the task that we have set ourselves. If we're serious about doing digital innovation from a socio-technical perspective, we have to break out of the silos that we're used to, both in terms of universities, where we're divided into different disciplines and we work in different spaces and we're disciplined by different kinds of structures. Let's not go into that, that's a bee in my bonnet. But we also need to break out of the silos through which we collaborate with our partners, where we see engineers collaborating with engineering companies, sociologists collaborating with community organisations. Of course, there's exceptions to that, but there are some very strong entrenched patterns and routines of practice. In order to do that, and this is the argument that we made to Research England, we need new kinds of research and collaboration spaces. Instead of saying to some social scientists, well, you could come and spend some time in a lab, which actually I really love doing, and I think we should do that as well, or saying to engineers, come and sit in my office in sociology. Those things are good, right? But actually what we need is the spaces where we can work together and break the silos and do something that is up to that task, up to that ambitious mission that BDFI has set for itself. So the facilities that we have built with the RPIV funding are not traditional facilities. Most of you, at least from universities, will know this is not a typical kind of building for a university. It's not typical both in terms of how lovely it is and its architecture and so on, but it's also not typical in that this building does not belong to a faculty. It doesn't belong to a particular school or department. It belongs to the Bristol Digital Futures Institute, which means that we are going to create collaborative spaces where we share the facilities, where we work together and where we aim to produce forms of knowledge, forms of practice, and most importantly, digital innovation that is different from the way things are done, from business as usual. The Neutral Labs is a name that we gave to this space when we were putting together the proposal. And I kept thinking, we're going to change that name, it's a rubbish name. And then people said, well, you can't get rid of the word lab because people really like the word lab. And then people said, but you can't get rid of the word neutral because it describes exactly what you've just said, which it doesn't belong to anybody, it belongs to everybody, and it doesn't look like the typical space that anybody works in. So Neutral Labs it is, and that's what it will stay. And so I just want to tell you a little bit about how we're going to develop the Neutral Lab from that foundation and how we really hope, well, we need you as our partners to do that with us. And I think, who was it, Demetra said something about you probably don't want us in the middle. There could be an argument to say that we will wither away at some point as these new collaborations take place. But I think the role that we'll have in the middle of that, in the process to start off with at least, will be really important. So let me say something about the Neutral Lab. This is really what I've just said. This is a unique new space for thinking about, exploring, imagining, and making. That word making is really important for BDFI. Socio-technical futures together. Again, that sounds like an easy statement. It rolls off the tongue. It is not a trivial task. And it's in this room that we're going to start thinking about some of the ideas that we have. I'll come back to the role of this room in the broader suite of facilities in a moment. This space normally would be completely empty. So we imagine this as an undeveloped space, a space that people will come to work in and establish their own kinds of, you can see an example over here, but that people will come and work in this space and decide, what do I need to work in my team? We have at the back, the cupboard, which was also going to have a different name at some point, but has now become the cupboard. And we think of it a bit like the room of requirements in Harry Potter, if any of you have read Harry Potter, which is that it's going to be, it's not quite yet, it is, so don't ask to look in it because it's not interesting yet. It's going to be full of the most amazing range of pieces of furniture, pieces of equipment, scanners, cameras, printers, 3D printers, glitter, paper, art materials, a whole variety of things, of furniture and materials that people can use to create their workspaces and to start working together to think about socio-technical futures. Now, I'll say a little bit more about that in a moment and how that will work. We haven't done this before. We don't think it's ever been done before. This is an experiment, and it will be a research project. So we don't have a set of predefined structures beyond some loose ones that I'm going to tell you about, but we really want to invite you to join us in this experiment and to learn with us about how to make this opportunity work. So, what is this opportunity? Over the next few months, we hope to work with any of you who are interested, and we're going to find out who's interested in what, in a period of co-design. What would it take to make this space work really well for you as people from different disciplines, and for you as our partners? What would you need in order to make it work? How can we bring this space alive? And how can we test and experiment what the opportunities and constraints of this space are? We want to build community both between ourselves and our partners, but also with our partners. So if I can give you an idea of how we've been thinking about this, we have been imagining, put it on this next slide. No, okay. We have been imagining that we will have a number of small teams working in this space, teams that will combine our partners from industry to community organisations to whoever, and that will work across disciplines. So we could imagine a team of maybe 4, 5, 6 people, maybe up to 10 people who say, we would really like to come and work in this space for 3 to 6 months. Research question, is 3 to 6 months the right period of time? We don't know. But we would like to come and work in this space in order to develop this prototype, develop this research funding proposal, think about how we might use the reality emulator, think about how we might collaborate with My World, think about how Knoll West Media Centre and LV could work together to develop some collaborative projects. And then people would bid to come and work in this space, and we would hope that there would be a very short waiting list for this space. We don't want people to have to wait ages and say you never get to work in this space. We don't want it to be empty. So we want to have a kind of good, steady demand for the space. And not only will that give you access to all of the BDFI facilities and, of course, the room of requirements at the back, but it will also mean that people are working in this space with other teams that they wouldn't normally come across during their normal working life in the labs that they're used to working in. So LV and Knoll West Media Centre might be alongside a team from one of our other partners working with some engineers, for example. And in that way, we hope to build this ecosystem of partners where there will be plenty of serendipitous opportunities for people to meet each other, to develop new projects. And then this becomes a kind of virtuous circle of creating and building the collaboration across BDFI. So what you can expect then in this space is an accessible, inclusive and shared environment. We want all of you to come and work here. We're very excited. If you imagine this room full of 6 or 8 teams working away at any one time, the cupboard is empty, all the stuff is out, really interesting things are happening in this space. The people in the middle, you will be supported by BDFI. We will have a team, a professional services team that will support you in the work, both in terms of using the facilities, but also in terms of thinking about how do we do futures research, how do we do socio-technical research, who are the researchers across BDFI that we might be able to connect you to. And through those means, we hope to bring new teams together and facilitate the existing collaborations that we have. All of these things on the bottom 3, I think I've just covered. What we ask from you is that you would bring exciting ideas to us, that you share with us the ideas that you have, that you're keen to work with other residents. I mean, this is only going to work if the Neutral Lab speaks to you, if you feel that it's something that is an exciting opportunity for you, and that you spend time in the space and that you help us to develop it, because it is a blank canvas at the moment and we have got plenty of scope to develop it further as we learn over time. What happens next? We will be running some collaborative and creative workshops to support that. We will be putting out a call for pilot expressions of interest to come and spend time in this space. And for those of you for whom this is important, we will be running seed corn funding programs to support some of that collaboration in the space. I think I'm going to stop there. I probably haven't spoken for as long as I was supposed to, which is quite an unusual experience for me. And to ask if there's any questions that you have about the Neutral Labs before we're going to break out.